Hello and once again welcome to VW Feasts. Today Wiener Schnitzel and Kartoffelsalat. Yes, that's right, we're going German. And as an extra surprise, I'm doing some of the cooking as well. So first of all you want to take some potatoes, and there's not much choice in Germany given the fact they eat so many potatoes. Some mayo and some spring onions. VW insists we peel the potatoes, and I suppose it is actually more accurate. Here I'm just cutting them down to a similar size so they'll all cook at an equal rate. You don't want to cook them down too small because you're going to cut them down later, but all the similar size means they'll all cook at the same speed. So onto a nice hot stove, and on goes the boiling water, and cook for about 10 minutes, but this will depend on the potato, and what you want to do is just keep checking it with a knife. And you want it to be still slightly firm, rather than cooked all the way through. If you cook them completely, the sort of cooking you'd have for a mash, they'll just fall apart if you try and make a potato salad out of them. So just slightly before you normally would. So once we've got them off the stove, we then pour some cold water with ice in it, and this will stop the cooking process so they don't even carry on cooking and go over. Just leave that there just for them to cool down, and then cut them into reasonably thick slices, about sort of 3 or 4 millimeters. Don't want them too thin, again they'll just end up as a mush as you start to combine it. As you can see, my excellent knife skills. Try not to cut yourself. So through the miracle of time lapse, all but one are now done. So we'll just do that final one here. And we take our spring onion, which we've cleaned and cut into small pieces, and very delicately use a scientific amount of mayonnaise. This is actually to taste. You probably don't want too much mayonnaise and you end up with a sort of splodgy goo, but you want just enough to coat each of the pieces so you have a bit more creaminess and flavour on them. And as you can see, this is the most crucial part of tonight's meal, and that's why I've spent so long explaining it to you. Schnitzel, on the other hand, is really easy. So now the virtual wife's back, and we're going to use schnitzel. Here we're using veal schnitzel. This is obviously rose veal, we don't use white veal. Some flour, some breadcrumbs. Here we have some ready-made panko breadcrumbs and an egg. And we're going to do a technique called panning. And rather than give undue emphasis towards this, we'll speed up the film here for the VW, but we want to roll this out so it's really, really thin. We want this to cook very quickly, so as thin as possible. Roll it out between the two pieces of cling film. Then classic panning. First of all, the flour, which allows things to bind to the meat. Then the egg, which will act like glue. And finally into the breadcrumbs. Make sure it's completely covered with the breadcrumbs. And once we have two, we're ready to cook. So onto a stove with some really, really hot oil, and place the schnitzel into the oil, and again we're speeding it up, but it really does happen quite quickly, so this is one of the dishes you'll want it to stand over on and turn on a regular basis. Some will say keep it still and just leave it, don't mess about with it, but you want to make sure you're not burning those breadcrumbs, so this way turning it over fairly quickly means you know where you are in the cooking process. And fundamentally, once the breadcrumb's done, the meat should be done too. As an alternative to the veal. You can use pork, probably best using a tenderloin. You can take those, they come out quite thick and you really can then tenderize it down quite thin. In theory you can use poultry, but there's a danger that by pounding it thin you end up with just a mush. Or something that you used to eat as a school dinner. Anyone remember turkey dinosaurs? So it really does cook quite quickly. And finally we serve it with a potato salad and some cranberries and a slice of lemon. Wiener Schnitzel und Kartoffelsalat.